Welcome to the podcast designed to fuel your success selling technology solutions. I'm your host, Josh Lopresto, SVP of Sales Engineering at Telarus, and this is Next Level Biz Tech. All right, everybody, welcome back. This week, we're talking about migration to mastery, how to dominate Google Cloud, and more. In with the studio here, Mr. Koby Phillips, VP of the Cloud Practice at Telarus. Welcome in, man.
Hey, man. Happy to be here.
We got a lot of exciting stuff. Haven't brought Google Cloud onto this podcast much, but as people are going to hear, we got some fun things to learn, things people have been asking for a while. So we're going to get to that in a minute. But you know, you've been on a couple previous episodes. We're going to get to those and kind of build on some of those points. But as the leader of the cloud practice, for anybody that's not familiar, walk us through a little bit about what that means and where kind of some of the focuses are in your role.
As VP of the Cloud Practice, the real responsibility we have is to make sure that we're always extending the reach of the advisors into new technologies where available. So we're always looking to explore that, enhance what we already have, working with our suppliers, working on different tools that they can bring to the relationship for advisors, looking at just ways to make things ultimately better in our streamlined technology. So either, again, more access, better and enhanced tooling, or education, expertise, et cetera. I mean, Josh, your team has grown leaps and bounds since we started this thing in 2020, right?
Yeah.
It was no cloud focus to now I can point and be like, I think everybody's got at least a certification, if not multiple certifications. We have architects that specialize in this. So just enhancing the depth of what we bring to the table and continuing to keep an eye on the business while we're working in the business.
So let's talk about new developments. So maybe kick us off just one or two. There's a lot, right? There's AI, all these things, but just walk us through maybe one or two new developments that are focus points for this year. I
mean, it's going to be AI and all the spinoff of AI, just like anything else. Like cloud has really been the one that has been the biggest example of, hey, this was like when we went to cloud, 15, 20 years ago for a lot of customers. The biggest developments have been, what is it that I'm actually selling, and what's the actual opportunity? It was like buzzword, like new tech, all this really cool stuff. Like, oh, there's robot dogs now. All of these things to what are we actually selling, and what can we take advantage of, and how can we help our customers in what their needs are, and getting a better roadmap and a lot more clarity around that has really been the emergence of, let's say, in the last 6 months of going, how do we take this really cool thing and make it really, really valuable and usable for our customers and for our advisors.
So if we flash back some of the previous episodes, we had you on episode 89, all right? We talked early on about cloud modernization.
Where does that stack rank in the most viewed? Asking for
it's actually one of the worst, and I'm hoping by suggesting it, people will go back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's get the ratings back up.
No, what I love is that every time somebody listens to one, they come back and they listen to the previous, and we find that they really are building on it. And so we talked modernization in 89, and then in 101, we kicked off at the beginning of this year talking about, here's some great strategies that I think you laid out for everybody to how to go tackle some of these deeper cloud conversations, right? So excited to see people have been putting those things to good use. Now, if we think about what's changed since then, it's been a lot, obviously, about AI. We were talking a lot about data privacy and things like that. So if you take into consideration the LLMs, all of that, how does that change your story around data privacy, data classification, and some of the additional strategies now?
Start with an analogy, right? Imagine you're going to organize your closet, or better yet, we'll do a pantry. Data for a lot of customers is like an unorganized pantry. It's all there, but you have so much stuff in the way you can't ever find what you're looking for. And so data classification, or data readiness, if you want to start to utilize that phrasing, is really this idea of cleansing out the stuff. So anything with an expiration date that I don't really need, or it's bad, or any of that kind of stuff, let's get rid of that. I think we've all been there. Then, okay, I don't really know where my peanut butter is because I got it mixed in with pasta and cereal, and everything's just kind of thrown in there. So how do I start to label it and clean it up and get it where I can find and access things quickly, and then restock it accordingly whenever I go grocery shopping and everything starts to work together, and I can start to figure out what I have to cook my meals a lot better and get more innovative even in it. A lot of companies will have multiple streams of data coming in, 7, 10 plus streams of data, and they're not connected in any way. There's no APIs even internally. They're not dropping into a data lake or a data warehouse of any sort. And so to take advantage of like an LLM and this AI technology that's coming up, the two biggest concerns right off the bat, data quality, which this addresses that, and use case. And so those are the two things that we talk about the most on our side of the AI fence. Of course, you have the three different flavors that we talk about mostly in our space, being conversational and predictive, which heavily dominates in the CX, but it pulls through into generative. Oh man, I struggle with that word.
So close.
Yeah, we're just going to call it gen. You want to hit me up with a correction really quick?
That was generative, guys.
There
That
you
was
go.
generative.
Yeah. So we're going to go with Gen AI, so we don't porky pig it on my end. And it's only like the 700th time I tried to say that. That's the word. It's just one of those things. We're just going to move past it. And that's the LLMs, right? Like that's the part that set the world on fire in the last several months. And you've seen more adoption of like ChatGPT and Gemini and all of these developments coming out. And everyone's like, how do I take advantage of that? And that is really the opportunity for advisors. It's helping them, give them a sense of like, okay, figure out what it is that you want them to do. And here's a quick tip that I've done with customers on calls. When they don't have their own use case, but they're interested in AI, I use an AI engine and just literally type in the name of that customer and say, give me an AI use case, throw it out there. It lands so far 100% of the time because they're just looking for some way to point in their direction because the pressure they're getting from like their executives or the competitive pressures or sales and marketing internally on what are we doing with AI? We saw this really cool thing. It's blown up a lot of roadmaps. It's blown up a lot of CIOs like timeframes and what they're looking to work on. And so like anytime there's disruption or something cutting edge, there's an opportunity. We just got to help bring in the right insights to how to guide that for a customer.
Yeah, and I think since we had you on at the beginning of the year, right, we were laying out some strategies. We've gone and tested some of those strategies, and I think the cool thing that, or kind of the new learning thing has been, this is one of those times where we really have the opportunity as advisors to tell the customer what we think they should do, to tell them what their use case is. They don't know. They know they need to do it, but they're not exactly sure. So I love the, hey, go out there, use ChatGPT, plug in your customer and figure out a use case and start suggesting those. And I think if anything, that's helping them sell it upstream. That's helping them consider the value, the ROI, all of those things, right?
Yeah, to me, coming up with the use case isn't the win. The win is getting them to start to want to do the use case, right? So how you get it, I think sometimes people look and they're like, oh, well, you used AI. And it's almost like kind of like shameful or something.
Yeah.
And in my head, that is a business tool that should be like utilized all the time. And if it can make your life easier, I think that's what we use technology for all the time. Mm-hmm. So why not take that step? And then again, it's executing on the vision that you're helping them craft. Think about this just from like a perception point of view as an advisor. Here's an idea of what you could do. Where I got the idea, I'm happy to tell you. You can use it too. At least you know I'm innovative enough to utilize the technology that you're wanting to use. Yeah. Put it into place. And just like anything else in a cutting edge emerging technology, it's not so much like the idea of that. Now it comes down to, do you have the team that you can do this with? Do you have the right expertise in-house? And that's what's exciting about the quick evolution of our portfolio. We went from having like a couple of suppliers that had like an idea to all of a sudden, like I look around and like AI practice and they have depth and they do this and they're doing app development around AI. They're building out infrastructure around AI and all of these really cool things relatively in a manner in which I haven't seen like a product, so to speak, development and come to market that rapidly. So that's also really exciting.
Yeah. And I do love the pantry example because to play on that a little bit, you walk into the pantry at a certain point and we all know there's a bunch of crap on the top shelf that I've just been throwing up there. I've just been putting off. I'm gonna I'm gonna take the time to restructure and lay everything out, but life happens and you never do. That story is the same thing from an IT perspective. They know they need to do it.
Yeah.
but they go, do I know how? Do I need help with that? When am I going to get to that? What's the real value and benefit? Now there is huge value and benefit of it.
Yeah, I mean, and these are still majorly helpful, but cloud optimized workshops. Those were the big thing when people were trying to figure out how to go to cloud. Give me my first steps. And again, those still happen all the time. Extremely valuable. Now you're getting AI workshops. Like, how do I get ready for AI? What am I looking to do? What flavor do I really want? And so you're seeing more and more of that take place. I mean, I've seen some crazy examples too with this technology expanding the buyer's footprint. And talking to one of our suppliers, they're talking about their AI. They are strictly what we would deem a cloud supplier. Work with Microsoft only. They're really just dialed in on that. And he's like, yeah, now I'm dealing with the CXO, the Chief Experience Officer. And they're not, and that's usually a CX conversation. Yeah. So we're also seeing this be a tremendous bridge to extend an advisor's reach into multiple swim lanes of technology and bring it all together. So it's setting at the center point that is, and will continue to be a major conversation, just a matter of how much insight we can bring and like, how do we harness that opportunity?
So let's shift this here. Let's talk a little bit about Google. So, this is a hyperscaler that's been out there, right? From a market share perspective, we think, maybe once or twice Google. Yeah. We think about AWS, we think about Azure, and now we got all this family of products available to us from a Google perspective. So I'm just going to throw a few out there. We're talking about infrastructure. We're talking about storage. We're talking about BigQuery, Google Gemini from an LLM. And then, when we talk about data privacy, Google's got a product for that, right, to feed into the LLM. So given all of those there, I mean, what does that mean for the channel? How do you want partners to think about that?
Well, I mean, you look at like AI as a service, and you look at the biggest leaders in AI as a service, which is simply give me the platform in which I can build my AI on and utilize it, and it can extend to and from that point. AWS, Google, and Microsoft happen to be like your top three, right? And then you see a lot of people building out their own. But just like with anything else, the ability to scale and build and develop product, AWS has been developing and churning out new products left and right for a number of years. Google's doing the same, and Microsoft. When I look at Google and I look at like that competitive landscape, they all have table stake, infrastructure, storage, in this. But Google's really been known as the place for developers to go. You had like Microsoft is like the enterprise, when they came along and Azure came along. That was to follow suit with their course of like enterprise level businesses following them. And again, I think it's the most genius marketing of all time. They gave their products to schools for free. Yeah. So they get hooked on Excel and Word and all these other things at a young age. So of course, as you're a professional, that's what you're used to utilizing. Who wants to learn new stuff? And so Microsoft, and then there's more conversations around, hey, I'm going to cloud. We're going to Azure. And you're like, well, why do you go to Azure? And they're like, because I work with Microsoft. So Microsoft has their place. AWS was the first and the most innovative, and again, all of these different products, and they were like the early adopters and the innovators for like cloud infrastructure and this and that. Well, Google comes along a little bit later, and they're like, man, we got to be a little different. And they just made their platform so easy to develop on. And again, like think of like BigQuery and like the search and the data retention and all of that kind of stuff. Well, I mean, that's their bones and their background. And so these companies built their clouds early on and then kind of continue to innovate. It's no different than if you really look at like it was a new market. And as they innovate, they all create new stuff and they dump more money into it, new products. And Google, AWS, and Azure, if you really look at it, they all have answers to pretty much all of their products. Now it's just more of like what they're known for. Does that sound kind of familiar to an industry?
Yeah.
Maybe like a TSD?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You've got all these like emerging companies trying to do stuff and they all get tagged as like, oh, these guys are good at that, even though you dig in deeper and maybe they're equal or maybe one's better than the other. And I think that's why Google's seeing more and more market share. Plus they took a page out of the Microsoft book and you see more schools getting Google products in early and for free and things like that. So,
my kids are using it.
Yeah. So you're getting more like, they're running each other's plays. They're getting more innovative. But I think Google, and don't quote me on this because I don't have it right in front of me, I think they've doubled their market share. Still third.
Caught up. They've caught up. They're catching up.
It's important because here's what happens. It's you got the enterprise guys that lean into Microsoft. You got the early adopters and like the stable guys that have hit on AWS. You kind of got these like you said, my kids are using this now. You got kind of the newer generation, I think, that leans more into Google, and the ones that do a lot more development. And for an advisor, I think they could care less, and I can understand why. They just need access, and who can do most. And I'll tell you this: the ones that we can spread across multiple ones and a private cloud and maybe some on-prem stuff. That's the ones we're looking for, because those become extremely sticky and extremely profitable for our advisors and everybody involved.
So let's think about the potential here, I guess, of I've got all these Google products available to me. There's ways to monetize, right? There's the pro serve component of it. There's migrations. There's so much to unpack there around all those products and other products. How do you want partners to be thinking about this, right? How do you want them to kind of walk away knowing, all right, understood Azure, understood AWS. What should be, maybe let's just get into some of those strategies that we want them to walk away with and employ.
You don't have to say no to anything. I mean, getting into the weeds of what they do differently is really what your team's for, right? What the suppliers that utilize them are for. For them, it doesn't matter if a client wants to go to Google, they want to go to Azure, they want to go to AWS, they want private, they want like some on-prem support. You have access to all of that. And not trying to oversimplify it, but that's what I'd focus on. You could either dive into the tech and start to do the separations and all that. And there's tons of information on this that you can go and digest. But ultimately, it's really coming down to the fact that you can give a solution no matter what the scenario is for your clients now. And that's the really exciting part. Google was a bit of a hole, right? There was maybe 1-2 options for the channel. I've seen that extend. We've got more onboarding. It's an emerging thing for our channel to be able to access. And I think that's really the key, is that there's not anything that they have to say no to anymore.
So as you get out and you get to see a lot of these strategies, you get to, teach a lot, we do a lot of role playing at the Ascends and things like that. Any recommendations there as a partner walks away from a strategy perspective that you think, all right, if they're going to go out and tackle this right now, they're going to have some different conversations. They're going to open up these doors. What's your guidance on that conversation? Anything different than before? Is it the same old, knowing now you can confidently have additional products in the backbone?
Well, I think a lot of times we go and try to source what we're asked for, and that's a total normal cadence. I would say if there's anything, I would just ask why. To start off. I know that sounds really simple, and we've said that for a number of years, and I think there's been not a training that I haven't heard either a supplier, myself, or somebody say, just ask why, and focus on the business conversations and things like that. And if you want to go down that road, I'll do a quick spinoff. The business conversation that has the most impact is really attacking the optimization of the applications and the resources that a company is utilizing. How do you do that? You really start talking about project completion percentage. How much of your projects are coming in on time? Are your resources available? And really kind of start thinking through what the force multiplier is if they don't. Think about this. There's an IT project for a reason. They don't come in on time. What does that do to the organization? What's the force multiplier? And how much does that set you back? Not just tech debt, but just overall production and things like that. And when you start to have that business conversation, then it starts to kind of open up and go, well, what are you considering? Would you be open to other things? Because now you're opening it up to a company. If there's really 3 ways to look at how to manage IT: in-source, co-source, outsource. If they're all in-source, meaning you just do everything internally, you might open them up to do co-source. Yeah. And if they're already doing co-source and outsource, now you might be opening their mind to go, hey, let me get the right player in here that's going to put you in position. And they might have some stuff in Azure. They might put some storage in AWS, or they might do some production level stuff in AWS, and they might do dev and sandboxing in Google. And we're also going to put some stuff in a private cloud and some stuff on-prem. We're going to build it and architect it off of an edge in which all of this stuff works on within microseconds or milliseconds of latency. And by the way, we'll probably end up containerizing a lot of your environments. It doesn't really matter to you where the app goes or lives. It's going to perform to an optimal level. You start to have that type of design and a high level, and then you say, let me get my team involved to talk about the details of how we get there and what we got to do. And this also sets you up, Mr. Customer, for that AI project that I know that you're probably looking at. And this will get your data in alignment in as part of this conversation, which is the number one, concern with AI is data quality.
Yeah.
So you just use that talk track, and pieces of it. I've seen a high success rate, both personally doing it and then advisors doing it as well.
Love it. So we've got a lot of great resources out there, but I mean, for partners, if they haven't dove into this yet, they want to explore the Google side a little bit further. They want to dive even deeper into cloud. We've got a lot of ways to help. What's your advice for a partner going, you know what, I haven't made that transition into this segment yet. I want to get a little further into. What would you advise?
I would always start with a shameless plug on Telarus University, right? So you're going to have supplier updates here where they're going to be plugging in their Google plays and support and products and how they go to market and education sectors on that. If you want to go deep dive, I'll point you to the same place you pointed me 5 years ago to go get trained up on stuff, which is like something like a Cloud Guru. What's the other one?
A Cloud Guru, yeah. Udemy.
Yeah, there's like those type of resources. Simply, again, if you really want to just do quick down and dirty, throw it in an AI engine. Say, give me the difference between GCP, AWS, and Azure, and get at a high level in 10 bullet points or less. If you just want to have like that type of knowledge, if you want to go deeper, then again, utilize that. That type of information has been available, for years. These three get compared all the time as just big companies. So it's fun, and then products and breakdown. But I would say those would be like the sources I would use. And the reason I'd go into an AI engine anymore, it's just a more streamlined Google. I know that's kind of ironic given the conversation we're having, but now I don't have to like click through articles. It just does it all for me and puts a nice, pretty bow on it for me.
No, I like that. Another thought that we talk about from time to time is there's funding available for these projects. So Azure has their own, AWS has their own, Google has their own. You want to talk about that for a second of just how people need to consider that if they've got a customer that's landed? Oh, by the way, could we look at funding available for this?
Yeah, so all of these programs, right, are known by the suppliers that are in the middle. So think about it like AWS, Google, Microsoft will take a supplier that they work with and walk deals over to them left and right. So if you can get tight with any of those type of reps and kind of intercept those leads and then register them for yourself, all the better. But this is something that happens, like Google in particular will get a deal to the 5-yard line. Discounts are easier for them to get if they push it towards a resale partner. And oftentimes, depending on the situation, more times than not, the rep actually gets comp more for pushing it through a resale partner that we would work with as a supplier. As you know, there's a middleman, right? We're not going directly to the hyperscalers and working through them. So as they do this, there's also funding programs with all of these guys that are well known at those suppliers of what levers to pull, how to pull that through. So as an advisor, simply just making sure that you ask and get the details of it so you can be in the middle and understanding that for your clients and just start to get your mind around how that works. But it could take like $150,000 migration and wipe it off the table. What all three of these guys are driving towards is consumption. They just want to have everyone tied into it and their consumption levels go up. And try to, if you do start to network with like a Google rep or Microsoft rep or any of these guys, understand what their levels are of consumption that are needed and see what clients that you have that can meet those. Most of our like traditional advisors have a unique superpower that these guys don't quite understand. The networking and the connections to these clouds drive those consumptions. There's a cheesy saying, connections drive consumptions, right? I think I was just tap dancing around it, so I just went ahead and said it anyways. But that means getting it networked right and driving into the cloud from where the end user is could be the difference in $2,500 of consumption for an Azure rep or their quota of $5,000 on that client. Just from like failed VPNs or networking or egress charges that go down. These are all things that like you can understand and make an impact on and start to bring and drive value inside of these deals as well.
Final thoughts, totally different topic, well, slightly different, but important. The Mike Tyson fight.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting at home, I'm watching it with some friends, cuts out. Son's watching it down the street, different city, seems fine, never cut out for him. What can we learn? We've seen plenty of memes, right? But what can we learn about this great, amazing, huge provider that surely has all of their network and architecture figured out and should never have any issues. What can we learn about some of the outages, some of the things that happened during that? What do you want advisors to walk away or help understand a little bit about what might have happened with some of the people that couldn't watch the fight for a little while?
Technology's hard. Like, think about what they've built out from a CD and content delivery network and driving to millions of homes all around the world. If you start to think about all of the things that go into that, and then to still get oversaturated because of one event, and kudos to like them for trying to do more live things, right? If you think of the way like Hulu Live works, it's really just taking what's already streaming and then replatforming it and handing it off with the smallest lag possible.
Yeah.
From like a live, more traditional cable feed. Netflix is bypassing that piece and just going live streaming just like you would on like a web platform and to a home built off their CDN and multiple CDN partners that they utilize. So traffic shaping and getting bottlenecked and all of that kind of stuff. If that's what it is, they haven't actually publicly commented as of like, a few minutes before this, I was just looking for any last minute things to bring on, but they're like, oh, it's a bandwidth issue. Well, yeah, it's a ton of different bandwidth. But then are they saying it's a bandwidth issue on the users or any of that? I feel like gamers, I'm not a big online gamer, but I feel like gamers go through this already. So they're probably just like, this is my pain. Yeah. But if you look at like some of the reach that you have, if you have clients that are any kind of a streaming service, you have multiple different options to secure that business and walk them through it. CDN is... content delivery has evolved and changed from years ago, like level 3. When I was there, I was like discovering what it was. And they're like, yeah, we do content delivery for the World Series, which I thought was cool just from being a big baseball fan. Didn't understand what it was, but certainly told everyone about it. Yeah. To now where I look at it in like the different style of it and the pops and how many connection points and how the traffic overflows and fails over, you can see a lot of like ways that could fail. And unfortunately, I don't know that it was a complete failure, but it wasn't as quality as like what Netflix has been associated with.
Yeah.
I think their stock took a hit for a couple of minutes and that's already bounced back up. Depending on how you look at it, you didn't miss much of a fight anyways, based on what everybody's saying.
Sad but true.
Yeah. So, but man, what a good job hyping it up. And for Netflix and for the individuals involved.
Yeah, no, love it. If Netflix can have struggles, everybody needs help. I think that's the walk away for sure.
I mean, you look at all of the major technology downfalls this year. Yeah. I think that just rings true. And, the other thing too, that immediately when you go to that, as somebody that's in technology, do you think it was something malicious, like a cybersecurity attack?
Cross your mind.
Yeah, 100% it does. Yeah. And then you're like, wait, am I exposed now? Yeah. I'm buffering?
Yeah.
What are they taking from me? Like, you just start to think these weird things, and you're like, did they come up with some new kind of buffering, like malicious hack? Yeah. But those are the things that go on. If we think those, and people are trying to figure it out, that means there's opportunity for us to have conversations, and that's why our channel continues to grow and thrive.
So final thought, I always like to ask this one, is you just think 12 months out, 12 plus months out, any innovations you're looking most forward to, anything you want us to be focused on more or less, just take us home.
Yeah, obviously just the continued innovation and product development and insight into AI. You're going to see a lot more AI, optimized workshops or AI checklist and this and that. That's going to be the overwhelming message. I used this joke when we did a presentation, I think at one of our AI summits. And I was like, remember when SD-WAN just was everywhere and everyone talked about SD-WAN and it was like going to be the biggest game changer ever? And to a degree, it definitely reshaped the network, right? AI is going to extend past that and it's going to continue to innovate and change. I'm just interested in seeing where the road takes us and then how do we continually bring that back to our advisors and their clients and put that into successful use cases.
Cool. All right, man. That wraps us up for today. As always, thanks for coming back in and doing this with me.
Yeah, man. We'll see if we can get those ratings up.
Let's try it, guys. Hey, get Koby these views and clicks, will you? Man. All right. That's it, everybody. Koby Phillips, VP of Cloud Practice at Telarus. Migrations with Google. I'm your host, Josh Lopresto, SVP of Sales Engineering at Telarus. Until next time.
Next Level BizTech has been a production of Telarus Studio 19. Please visit Telarus.com for more information.